A senior leader cannot have a coaching session with internal staff discussing the reorganization of the company. This is where the conflict of interest comes into force. The organizations might say, okay, you need coaching, and the person is not ready. The person has a resistance. Most probably, it won't work. All people come with symptoms. And coaching works with roots. I notice some stigma about coaching in Asian market, that people mix it with therapy, with consulting. They expect to hear advices and recommendations. The latest data of neuroscience tells us that the new neuroconnection, and basically this is new habit, new behaviors, new way of thinking, is being built from 65 to 299 days. In the era of AI now, it matters much less what we know, just because we have all the answers through AI, but matters how we know it. Am I approaching my maturity, or my maturity is approaching me?
Thank you, Elena, for joining us. If we may start with maybe your introduction, how do you usually talk about yourself? That'd be amazing.
Usually, I start my introduction where I'm from. Originally, I'm from Belarus, from Minsk. Currently, I live in Malaysia, in Borno Island, with my husband and 2 kids. I have 2 boys. This is my 5th country to live in. Professionally wise, I did a lot of HR consulting for over 19 years all over the world in different countries. And last 7 years, I devote to coaching, to individual coaching and to coaching teams.
Okay, super. You started in HR, and
And
over the years, I see way more wellness and way more coaching. Can you tell us about your journey towards those areas more than HR, pure HR?
yes, yeah. Around 7 years ago, when coaching started to be more or less popular in our part of the world, like in eastern part of the world, in the Europe, and I was thinking I probably need to acquire coaching as additional competency to my HR expertise. I enrolled to coaching program, and I just fall in love with coaching. Like, I passed through my own transformation through the instruments of coaching, and gradually I decided, well, I want to do more coaching and less HR consultancy. And this is how this shift happened. It was a bit painful, frankly speaking. Yeah, because you do a lot of things where you know, and you have requests, and you have like job there, like HR projects, and then you need to make a decision to reject them in order to free space for something what you just start doing. But this happened, this shift, and this is where I am at the moment, not regretting even a single day about this decision.
Did you maintain the same clients, or you changed also the type of clients you
Yes,
serve?
yes. It was interesting how I started the journey. I was thinking, well, I want to work with the business owners. And this was my target audience. I started to work with business owners. Then I defined for myself, probably I want to expand my target audience to experience more lives in different areas. Then I started to work with organizations, like with international organizations and their employees, top management and middle management. And as per now, I do more on that side rather than business owners. The corporate world started to be more interesting for me than just purely business owners.
Got it. And just to explain to people who are discovering you today, what do you do today? What's the kind of practice that you have? I don't know those things, so I can't really talk about them, but there were some specific coaching modalities that you're using. Can you tell a bit more about the modalities and the kind of services you provide today?
There are, as you mentioned, different modalities, and obviously, like as all the programs, most of the training programs in the world, they are based on ICF, International Coaching Federation approaches and competencies. So this is a classical approach or classical modality in coaching. This is what I do when I coach the person, not the problem. But basically, it is across all modalities, like this approach, coach the person, not the problem. And another modality is based on the cognitive behavioral therapy, which has the strongest impact on myself as I went through this by myself. And this is what I apply to my clients as well, where we change our thinking, the thinking strategy, and expand the capacity of thinking, which change our reactions and actions, and at the end, our behavior. I also apply vertical leadership development framework. This is the framework where you expand your meaning making. Like basically, for leaders in particular, it is when you know many things, you know instruments, you have skills, you have capacity and capabilities, but how you know it, like what is the meaning that you create for yourself of what you know that allows you to make decisions at a different level and see the complexity at a different level. So this is what I do. Mostly it's applicable again for leaders when it's not like a skill based coaching, but rather meaning based coaching.
I'm wondering if you can make me understand what it means, the vertical leadership development modality. Can you walk me through an example so I can make sense of it?
Yes, yeah, sure. As kids, we go through certain stages of development. We cannot jump from one stage to another. This is like a natural path that every child goes through. And an adult goes also through certain stages of development.
Okay.
But if for kids it relates more to knowledge, skills, for adult it relates more to awareness and consciousness and creating a new meaning of something. A good example of an adult passing through certain, it's called not the stages, action logics. The adult uses in particular stages of the life is when we do something today and it seems so hard. We struggle. We don't know how to make a decision in a particular situation. We overcome it somehow. And then in a year, a couple of years, we remember this situation when we struggled a lot. And we think, wow, but that was easy. Yeah, so this is the sign of how our maturity grows, how we create a new meaning for ourselves about different contexts. In coaching, we work with people to help them create this new meaning. For example, the person knows something but uses this in particular context, and we expand this view where else the person can use this.
Okay, I get it. Is it linked? So when you were explaining, I was thinking about awareness and kind of the awareness of being aware, and then you can basically loop multiple times, right? So you are able to see yourself, see others, and it's kind of broadening your awareness of within yourself and within the world and the different stakeholders that are within that world. Is it linked to this?
It's linked, and in vertical leadership development, there are like two positions. How you see yourself. You can be the subject of exploration, or you can be the object of the exploration.
Can you describe the two
Yeah,
dynamics?
the object of the exploration is when I'm Elena and I look at you, I try to analyze who you are as a person. I look at the world, I try to analyze how is the world in relation to myself. So I look from my own perspective as I'm a subject. But when I'm an object, I'm going out of myself to look at myself as observer, to understand what is happening with myself, and then exploring the world not from my own perspective as a subject, but as an object.
Okay. It's complex now, those
It's
topics.
complex, but it's very transformative. Just recently, I was finishing the 1-year team coaching program, and I was applying the subject-object self-awareness framework. And I came up with my own framework for team coaching in particular to understand how I see myself, how I see the team, and how I see the system. And then another perspective from the object perspective, how I am seen, how the team sees me, and how the system sees me. Now I'm at the stage to deepen this, most probably through a PhD, to do more of research of it and to transfer it from team coaching to anyone who would like to experience it, who would like to develop themselves, who is interested in self-awareness and self-reflection, but to make it in a simpler way. So at the moment, it's a bit complex, I know.
It's also the setup, right? I'm asking you about concepts to understand what you do, but experiencing it would probably be easier. I imagine you would guide me through some kind of questioning that would not be too heavy cognitively. And the problem now is I'm trying to understand a complex problem through a few introductory words. So I guess that's the setup that makes it complex more than anything.
That's true. This is similar to when I try to explain what coaching is and how it works to someone who have never experienced coaching. I usually say, okay, let's pause here, let's jump into coaching, and you will rather experience it to understand what it is and how it works.
I agree. Sounds good. Okay, super. So that's interesting. Can you tell us about your work with TELUS or the United Nations, like the different clients you're working with at the moment, to understand how it works? So you spoke about modalities that I can make sense of as an individual. What happens when an organization comes and work with you?
When the organization comes and work with me, still most of the requests are individual coaching. So basically, people who work in this organization, in UN agencies, or in private sector through telehealth, they will experience individual coaching like the same way as I just explained through similar modalities. What would be the difference is that considering that it's not only one person who is requesting the coaching, there is someone behind this person, the organization, then to create a holistic approach and this alignment in the organization and coaching process and results, what I usually do is we have like 15 minutes of the first coaching session when we invite the supervisor of this person. And during these 15 minutes, we discussed what are the goals for this coaching and what would be the ideal result. And then we have 2 or 3, depending on the duration of the coaching journey, would have several checkpoints like that, including the final coaching session when we also invite the supervisor. So just to create this alignment, this would be the difference. When I do team coaching, then the dynamic is different and it's more complex approach because you work with the team and then you coach the system, not the team. So just to understand what is outside this team, what is the environment, who are the stakeholders, what is the relationship with these stakeholders, what is the relationship with the clients, external, internal clients. So you, as a team coach, try to coach the system itself.
Love it. Okay, and one more thing on the non-linear coaching that you do. Can you connect it to all the rest that you've been explaining?
So nonlinear coaching it entails elements of linear coaching when the person wants to walk from A to B and then the person does particular things. This is more related like on doing rather than being. And sometimes
just to link it to a concept that most people will understand, I imagine, this is the growth framework, right? From the goal, the reality. That's the linear coaching.
Yeah, this is rather, yes, like linear approach. The non-linear approach is when you work at the who level and you help the person to develop the thinking capacity that will be sustainable. So it means that if the person in linear coaching wants to achieve particular goal, through this journey of coaching, they achieve the goal with the help of the coach. But when they face this problem again or any similar problem in different contexts, most probably they won't be able to handle it by themselves. They will need to reach out again to the coach to do the same process. In nonlinear coaching, as I explained, like you develop a new thinking capacity. You start thinking differently because this is a level like who level. And then you are able, after the coaching journey ends, you are able to handle different situations by yourself, by applying what you learned. But here, a side note is I love neuroscience and I integrate it in my work as well. The latest data of neuroscience tells us that the new neuroconnection, and basically this is new habit, new behaviors, new way of thinking, is being built from 65 to 299 days. So it means that the length of this coaching journey should be not less than 65 days. So that this is the time where this new neural connection is being established, but to make it sustainable so that the person is self-sufficient and able to handle difficult situations by themselves it might need some more time. So there is no
Got it.
magic that like as we go to the gym, if we go just once, nothing happens.
Yeah. That's not what we're sold. If you look at those YouTube videos where they tell you 20 days and you have a crazy great body, no, it doesn't work.
Don't believe it. Yeah.
Okay, super. So when you talk about non-linear coaching, you're talking about capability building. I imagine there's mindset work. What kind of mindsets are you working with your clients?
Yeah, I think mindset actually doesn't matter what kind of mindset it is. The most important is the readiness. Yeah, because maybe readiness is also part of mindset. As I speak now, this might be the important element, like to be ready and open for changes in your work, in your life, in your approaches. Because what I experience sometimes, the organizations might say, okay, you need coaching, you go and have a coaching session. And the person is not ready. The person has a resistance. Most probably, it won't work. Yeah, there should be readiness and open mindset. And there should be something where the person struggle with. If you're happy, if you are satisfied with everything, you don't need any coach. Yeah. So there should be a request and a wish from this person who is in coaching to change something. And the request might be different. But here's the tricky part. Most of the clients, they have requests. They come and tell, okay, my team is not performing. Or I don't know how to motivate in a non-material way my team. Or I don't have enough charisma. I want to improve my charisma. Or my business is not growing. I want it to grow. Or I'm not believing in myself. So these all are symptoms. As we go to the doctor, we say, oh, my shoulder is hurting. And the doctor says, oh, your problem is in the leg. That gives you problems with your shoulder. So the same works with coaching. All people come with symptoms. And coaching works with roots. So we listen to all the symptoms. People offload in 1-2 first sessions. And then we start to dig in to understand what causes this, that your team is not performing. What causes that you think or you believe that you don't have charisma. And then whatever surfaces as a root of this problem, this is what coaching works with. There was a very interesting case once when the client, he has a dental clinic and he came coaching and he said, I want my business to grow. I want to expand, etc., etc. So we had a couple of sessions for the start, and then we discovered the root. The root was his relationship with his wife. And we started to work on that particular topic, not on growing business. So this is how it can turn into completely different direction. Yeah, that's why, like when I say, when my client is the organization, we have these check-in points in the beginning where we start, what is the request, and then we have in the middle for the supervisor to see where we are and what has transformed in this journey.
Very interesting. I'm thinking about one of the things I read on your website. You talk about observing actions, interactions, meetings. How open are clients to do that? Because I see it as a super powerful thing, right? We're always blindsided. Most of the time we go in meetings thinking about the objective, the goal, the business. If we're very good, I imagine we can still think about some of the people there, but it's hard to think about everyone. If you have a meeting with 10 people, try getting your attention on each person equally. It's almost impossible when you have the topic that you try to present and grasp whether people understand the topic in the first place. And then there's your own action. Am I talking correctly? How peaceful do I look? Am I inspiring? You were talking about charisma. So tell us about this process. Is it new? Because I feel like not many coaches are doing this. How do you make it happen?
Yeah, it's shadow coaching. It's called shadow coaching. When you, as a coach, you become a shadow of your client.
Interesting. I thought the shadow was like the shadow work in spirituality. I thought it was related to that. Okay, interesting.
Yeah,
Shadow.
yeah. You just shadowing whatever your client does. You just shadowing this.
Yeah.
And when you're in the office, you just go to the meetings, you go wherever you're present, like for a couple of days in the office, whatever your client does, in particular in interaction with others. And this expedites the result for the client a lot. Yeah, we could have 5 sessions talking about how you do things in your work. But when I observe it and we discuss it then in the coaching session, this just gives facts. Since most of the time I do this online, I would be present in the meetings, like in team meetings, and usually it is requested when I do team coaching, when the team lead would request team coaching for the team, and then I go to their team meeting and I just sit in their meeting with camera off, muted, and just observe one person. And then I bring to his or her attention what I observed and what I think is important to work on and to take forward to coaching conversation.
I'm just thinking as I go. I tried to do that in the past. I was not particularly successful, but I can see the value of it. I definitely believe that's a great modality. Have you had the possibility also to get people to look at themselves, a bit like when you see a football game and the people are analyzing the different movements? Because what you're talking about is shadowing someone. How about people shadowing themselves sometimes and looking again and say, "Oh, that's what I did there." And I feel that just looking at ourselves in those meetings would already have a transformative effect.
Not always. Because something what people believe in is they will just see this confirmation what is right in the video when they see it. But when the coach sees from different perspective, from different angle and brings it forward to the client and emphasizes something, look, here you do this. And how about like this? Yeah, like flipping. There was a very good case I had with a client where it was for him just normal to give direction to the team instead of asking questions and to talk a lot in the meetings, to not give a lot of space or enough space for employees to talk. And this was just okay for him. So when we looked at it from different perspective and when we discussed what is the difference between leading from behind and leading from front, he started to realize where there is still room for trying something different to empower the team.
Do you watch the videos with him or you just talk about it?
Mostly we talk about it.
Okay.
Yes. Just a
Um,
couple of cases when the clients were just curious. Can you like be
me.
precise? Where was it? So then we would watch the video and
Okay.
I would say, here it is. Here is a moment.
Okay, very interesting. I think is brilliant. I have many questions. Like one of them is related to the cross-cultural aspects of your work. So you've worked in Africa, in Europe, in Asia now. Are we different from one region to the other? What's different and what's the same?
There are some differences. In particular, I noticed it when working in Asia and when I worked in Central Asia. And what I noticed is that some differences in culture and mentality. The coaching process might be a bit slower for this region comparing to like European region. There might be several factors affecting it. One is in Europe, coaching is something what people are aware of and they consider it as a support, as a help, and they see a lot of benefit from it. And they go to it openly, and from the outset, they are really like looking forward to it from the outset, from the first session. They tell you the whole life, like the whole story of the life, openly, without hiding anything, with small details. And this expedites coaching because the open you are, the faster you get results in coaching. In Asia, the approach is different. Again, the factor may be that coaching is not that popular, and still sometimes I notice some stigma about coaching in Asian market, that people mix it with therapy, with mentoring, with consulting. I would say most of the time people whom I work from Asian region, not only in Malaysia, I work with Thailand, Cambodia, Indonesia, they expect to hear advices and recommendations and to take some time for people to start talking because they come to listen with expectation that they will listen. And it takes some time to demystify coaching in the process itself. And also, of course, there are exceptions and there are people who are more open and they will tell you the whole life story in the first session. But most of the time, I would say in 80% of the cases, it takes maybe 1-2 sessions after the person will open up and will be ready to go to the depth of the conversation and would start like trusting the process.
It's very interesting. You talk about basically two factors. One is the openness or maybe the confidentiality or the wanting to withdraw information and not share. and because of the therapy and the outlook on it. And the second thing you talk about is the wanting advisory and transfer, basically.
This is coaching awareness, what coaching is.
Got it. If I may, can I ask you the takeaway for HR teams? So basically, you've been doing coaching for some time. You come from HR, so you've done the job of being the human resources department. How do you see coaching interact? So basically, external coaches maybe interacting with the HR team. And how do you see the HR teams taking an active role in coaching employees? Is it something that is possible? And if so, how?
When you say take an active role in coaching, meaning interacting with coaches or applying coaching in the daily work environment?
Both. Like, how would you see both happening? Because we could defend both. Like, you can argue from one thing and argue against the other thing. What would be the best solution for you if we were to do hybrid, maybe? If you say, no, it can't be hybrid, you need external coaches, it cannot be done by HR, it's also a point of view. I'm interested in your point of view. And then once we have it, maybe explain to me what could HR do, even if you say they should not do it.
Yes, yeah. Lately, I have been participating in number of conferences in Kuala Lumpur, which related to HR, grown leaders, etc. So I was speaking to many HR professionals in Malaysia in particular. And the most common question I'm asking as I hear HRs, first, what I hear is when I ask about like, how do you develop your leaders or middle management, basically like leadership skills, regardless of the level. And they say, yes, we have coaches and we either do this internally. We just train our functional managers and they are coaches for their employees. Some organizations, they have a dedicated team who would provide these services, like internal coaches full time. And some would work with external coaches or employee assistant programs like telehealth, where I work through employee assistant programs. And my question is, okay, if you have internal solutions, how do you avoid conflict of interest, in particular for senior leaders? Because lately I've been working a lot with employees who have been affected by layoffs and restructuring and reorganization of the companies. And a senior leader cannot have a coaching session with internal staff discussing the reorganization of the company. This is where the conflict of interest comes into force. So this is an open question. HR, they find their explanations and the answers. But for me, it's obvious there is a conflict of interest. Either they don't use this service at all then, if you have only internal solution, or they probably find by themselves someone externally, because this is sensitive topic to discuss with internal staff. And I see as moving for HR, as moving forward, I see kind of hybrid approach. It's great and crucial to have your internal capacity in coaching where there is no conflict of interest and the supervisor must not coach their subordinates. Yeah, it should be someone from another department where there is no any crossing reporting lines, just to be objective. And use external coaches, either to work with individual external coaches or use companies who provide employee assistance programs to the companies.
Got it. Very interesting. So basically, there's always a conflict of interest unless you use someone external. That's the answer.
It was interesting a couple of times when I had senior leaders coming to coaching session when I said, and this is just very basic things which I say in the beginning of the sessions, that our session is confidential. And a couple of times people said, thanks God you said this, because this is important that this is confidential. So it means I can just share with you anything what I find is important to share. So just this simple word, which is very basic, which we do as coaches in the coaching session first thing. So and the reaction sometimes is like that. So this is a sign. Yeah.
Great. Interesting. If you summarized your life to one question, what would it be, Elena?
Just recently I worked with my coach, and this is a question that still is in my mind. Like I ruminating about this question. I still didn't find the answer, and I think this is a long path to find it. It's two layers. Am I approaching my maturity, or my maturity is approaching me? And the second question is how either of these both I do.
If I look 10 years, 20 years from now, where are you? What do we wish you for?
I would have my own coaching company, having branches in several locations, not only in Malaysia. I would say within 5 years. This is not like that long term.
Okay.
So I think long term is that it would stand at the level together with other coaching providers like BTS, for example. So I like their approach, how they do coaching, which is similar to my approach as well. So I would aim at that, having a platform with the use of AI where the AI could recognize the emotions. Because at the moment we have many tools, and myself, I use AI coach on a daily basis just for small things to help me reflect between the coaching sessions with my coach, like a human coach. But all these AI tools which we have now available in the world, they cannot recognize emotions of a person. And this is the downside of all AI. This is my, I would say, even it's like a plan, but at least I'm dreaming about it. And dreams often brings us to the plans and realization.
And if we look at your impact in the world, what is the topic you're trying to influence? If you're trying to educate people, what would be the aspect that you'd like people to understand better so that they can become better person, or the world just become better? It's like, what's the aspect you're focusing on?
I will respond in 2 layers to this question. I have my philosophy. When I started my coaching practice, I wanted, it was a path to understand what I want to do, like what is that impact. And for me, I would like to make impact on 1,000 leaders for sustainable and harmonious development of the world, so that this 1,000 would create a ripple effect for others. So this is like my mission, my philosophy that I'm working towards. And one thing that I would like everyone to learn is whatever you think is optional. It means you don't need to stick or to believe in your thoughts. You can choose what is supportive to believe in it. This is like a statement, let's say, or belief that I developed for myself that made a huge transformation in how I started to think about myself, about others, and the world. Thinking or what you think is optional.
If you had to identify or say one outdated HR or coaching practice, what would it be? Like, what would you say is this is the one thing we should change as an HR community or as a coaching community?
Yeah, we all try to solve the problem at the level where it was created. And we cannot solve the problem at the level where it was created. We need to change our awareness in order to start solving the problems at a high level, at a different level, not the same level at where it was created. So I think this is the most common approach in the organizations when I coach people. This is how I see how people think.
And from your view, because right now you're more on the employee side, I don't know whether it's true or not, but it seems like it. Like you're always you're working with the people. Are you also working on the business goals? And if you are, then how do you balance being a people advocate, so helping people towards their own flourishing, versus being a business partner or a business driver?
It's interesting because most of the time people who come to coaching, they know already where the balance is. In particular, like HR, for example, I work in coaching with some HR experts, and they know the balance. This is not the request for their coaching. In coaching, it's not about balance, and I cannot tell people what to do, like you need to be on that side or another side. But it's rather on coaching the person, that the person sees if there is imbalance and how to find this balance. Did I respond to your question? Or it was more related to myself? How do I balance?
I think the answer you gave me is useful. It's useful for the people who are navigating this. Now, for you as a coach, because I would say there's an imbalance because you're on the side of the employee. At least that's the way it feels when I listen to you. It might be a misconception, but that's the way I got it from you. Is that correct? Or you're trying to balance yourself when you have a commitment with the clients and the company? Which side are you in? Because I feel you are, in a way, a tool to balance things out. So in order to balance things out, you need to be more on the employee side, but that's just an understanding that I just made.
This might happen only when I have the request from the organization and the supervisor would be in coaching session like for first 15 minutes. And then this might be the imbalance where the team lead would say, okay, I would like this to be a result of the coaching to maximize the sales, for example. And the person who is in coaching would like to discuss like charisma, for example. Yeah. So this is where we try to, the three of us, to make the balance. So what would be feasible? Let's say we have 6 sessions or we have 12 sessions, what would be feasible? And here I would be directive where I would say, because this is the moment of contracting, it's called contracting with a client, when we agree about the results. And I would need to be directive based on my expertise saying this is feasible and this is not feasible. This is where we would need like another 10 sessions, let's say, or what you want as a team lead and supervisor, this is not what we would work in coaching. This is not a coaching request. Yeah, so we are trying to see where the business requests or business expectations would meet with the expectations of this particular person who is in coaching, to try to merge it and take it forward for work. And then again, these mid check-ins would matter a lot. But through employee assistance programs, I don't have access to the supervisor. This is just one individual coming to coaching, whatever he or she brings. We uncover what is under the symptoms to work with the roots, and here we
Got
are.
it. What's the most exciting HR innovation you've seen recently?
The most exciting HR innovation.
Yes. Can be coaching as well, if you want to go for the world of coaching instead.
I have been participating in several conferences.
We can scratch the question too. Huh?
Somehow you asked this question and the most innovative when maybe because something what I heard from Mitio Kako. I was talking to him in NHCCE conference in Kuala Lumpur recently. And what he was talking about, it's just completely different level. And I think none of the HR innovations can beat it. So this is still in my mind, like contact lenses with access to internet. And when you blink, it will give you particular information about the person whom you talk to. So this is innovation for the future. In particular in HR, I'm not sure I was following.
This, what you just said, is probably one of the most innovative things I could think about. So this is great. You were just judging your own innovation outlook.
Yes.
Interesting.
And for recruiters, I think it's just amazing when you have interview and the person tells you a beautiful story about the expertise, and at the same time you go to internet through your contact lenses and you read everything what the person hides or does not want to talk about.
Some of those questions I asked different guests and I always have different answers. So it's always interesting to see what you guys think from different angles on the problem. And for the next one is also something like that. If you look at the next 10 years for organizations specifically, what do you think is going to change? Can be in the world of coaching, but I think you have a very specific look at organizations because you're looking at the deeper root causes of the reason why we're not working as well as we would like to. Maybe if you see some of those things starting to unroll, what can we expect in the next 10 years with AI accelerating everything and changes being more fast? Where do you see the world going in the workplace, in the organizations where we work?
Yeah, what I see, and I was talking about it in one of the conferences in July in Kuala Lumpur, HR Tech and Innovation Conference. And I was talking in particular about vertical leadership development. What will change is that there is a very high hope and expectation in terms of AI. And yes, it's helpful, it's supportive, and it is almost like a labor, additional labor that we can use. But still, who is managing this labor? A human. In the era of AI now, it matters much less what we know, just because we have all the answers through AI, but matters how we know it. So this is about everything what we know, what we get through AI, what is the meaning that we are creating of everything that we get. So matters less what we know, but how we know. And I think this will emphasize in the next years the self-development and development of self-awareness of people. And that's why I believe that like this framework I was talking in the beginning that I created and how we see ourselves as a subject, how we explore it as an object, it will be very useful for people. So people will be more focused on self-development because all the tools, responses that we need, answers, it will be there.
Yeah, I agree. I've been thinking about this since the beginning of our chat, but it's something that is occupying my mind. We always think about what will we do when AI does most things. But so I can't know too far in the future. I guess at some point we don't need to do anything. But in the interim, I feel there's a big chunk of different points of view on the problems we never are able to take because we are so fast in the decision making. So usually see things from one angle. When we see it from 2-3 angles, it's already a luck. AI will be able to give us all the data from all the different angles, and we will be able as humans to feel it from those different angles, not just understand it. So I feel there's lots of value in what you describe. Question for you, is the vertical leadership concept explained in some of your social media or your website? Can we read about it to understand it better, this work that you do?
There is a recording of this speech which I was given the HR Tech and Innovation Conference. It's available
check it out
on YouTube. Yeah, and it's 15 minutes speech explaining what it is and how it works.
Very cool. With all your experience on the topic of coaching, but also you've been taking a massive step back from your HR days, right? You're still working with HR people, but you've been an outsider for a few years now. What's the last piece of advice you could give people? Maybe two different audiences, like maybe the HR people who are in management, let's say CHROs, HR directors, as a first, this is my look. Like I was in your shoes a few years back. I've been doing this. This is my recommendation, or this is my learning for all those years. And maybe the second one would be more for people just starting in the world of HR. Maybe they're still on the university benches. Maybe they just came out of university as their first job. What would be the two advices you would give?
For the more experienced one, I would recommend to read a very good book, Changing on the Job. And it explains really well these different action logics the person develop as they grow and pass through certain stages of development. And it facilitates HR work by understanding what is the action logic of this particular person. It helps navigate the complexity of interaction with different stakeholders and internal clients. Now, when you see how the person thinks, how the person reacts, you already understand what would be the best way to communicate with this person and how to help the person grow, to integrate in the current action logic, and to help the person to move, to develop towards the next action logic. So this is what I would recommend. For those who start the journey, this is the most difficult question, I think, what to recommend to this. Considering I'm a coach, I'm not giving any recommendations.
I know. You can have a question maybe. I was going to say an advice or a question.
Yeah, I would maybe through my lens as when I started my HR journey, while it wasn't something I always wanted to be in HR, no, it happened just accidentally or in one of the countries where we moved in Azerbaijan and I started my HR journey. Obviously, they need a strong fundament in terms of different streams in HR, like recruitment, performance management, etc., etc. And after this fundament is built, I would probably ask the same question I'm asking myself. Am I approaching my maturity or the maturity is approaching me? And how do I do this? So this question, how, again, it matters less at this stage what you know, because you built your fundament in terms of HR knowledge, but how you do this.
Love it. Thank you.